Wholeness, welcome. This is Josh of Integrating Presence, and today I'm joined by Ora Nadrich. That's how you say your name, right, Ora?
Yes,
How's it going today?
it's going well. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'll just jump right in here. You mind if I call you Ora then?
No, please do.
Okay. Who is Ora and what does she do?
Ora is I consider myself an awake human being on this planet of ours during this time of the Great Awakening. And I'm an author, I'm a mindfulness practitioner, and my books are very mindfulness based. And my newest book out right now is Time to Awaken, Changing the World with Conscious Awareness.
Well, very cool. Let's talk about awakening then. First, the best place to start, I think, is what's your definition of awakening? What does that mean to you? And then, if there's kind of a universal aspect of it, how would you define awakening?
Well, mindfulness is the practice of present moment awareness. So if I take that concept and I bring it into the act or the art of awakening, it means that you are in the present moment with total awareness. And when we are in the moment with total awareness, we are more cognizant of our own behavior, thoughts, actions, and deeds. We're aware and cognizant of our environment, the other, and then the world and the entire universe. So, really, in a nutshell, I would say that being awake is being a conscious human being.
Yes, and it's quite something to participate fully in whatever we're doing to and bring our full awareness and attention because a lot of times we seem to be scattered or so many things competing for our attention, like this podcast, but to really be there and to see and hear someone something, is it's such a gift that we can give now. um, why do you feel it's even more important at this time? And why now is it time to awaken compared to, I don't know, some other times? Or is there anything specifically um, significant about the times we're in, the hour we're in, where this seems more important than ever? Or is this the goal no matter where we find ourselves in life or what time period we are? What would you say to this?
Well, I think because we're alive at this moment in time, that we can only apply this to the time of which we are in. And being awake, I would think, would matter at any time in the life cycle. Do you know that being an awake, aware, conscious human being is important no matter what time you're living in? But we happen to be in this time, in real time, in present time, in this particular century. And we know that a lot has changed over the last, now moving into our fourth year of tremendous changes over the last, as I said, almost 4 years. And I think that as a result of that, it requires us to be even that much more aware, that much more awake, because we're in a time where our technology is advancing so exponentially. And it's a real contradiction to the spiritual path versus the path of, materialism and technology. And it's really ratcheted up quite a lot. And we also have faced, unprecedented things like what happened with COVID. We went into very unnatural states of living. We were in what was called a lockdown. We had to separate, we had to isolate, which caused a tremendous amount of polarization, and people felt very estranged from loved ones, family members. So I think because we have some of these unprecedented obstacles that we have faced most recently, I think it really behooves us to be that much more aware and awake so that we can be better prepared for the changes that we will encounter in the days ahead.
Well put. And one of the things that came to me earlier when reflecting on this interview is um, during all the thing that took me the most, besides the fear of the whole COVID thing, is the amount of time it took to pretty much change the entire world or lockdown. It was pretty much overnight, and we've never seen anything like that before. I mean, it came out of nowhere, and I think those who knew probably weren't going to say anything. This is a huge ball of wax we can get into. I'm familiar with the ins and outs of it. If we want to get into that thing, you're welcome to. Um, the thing I think overarching though, the kind of, if I had to draw a temporary conclusion to all this because of all the divisions surrounding this, how do we, well, my temporary conclusion was if I respect people's healthcare choices, they're likely to respect mine. So as long as we have a choice around this, including, what side we find ourselves on around that issue, then as long as we remain respectful and there's a choice available, then there's not much of an issue. As soon as we are forced into doing something and the choice is removed on either side, then I think there's an issue. Now, there's a lot of shenanigans that went on, obviously, around this thing on both sides. I mean, I could criticize both sides. I could find things to compliment on both sides. But overall, I feel this is another form of division, of divide and conquer tactics amongst folks. So, what would you say to that, and how can we use awakening to lessen this divide and conquer tactics, especially in the United States? I see it more than, not that I'm really versed around the world or anything, but especially it's funny, it's called the United States when there seems to be quite a bit of a division.
I think you said it quite well. I think that, first of all, we had an unprecedented uh, event that happened globally. That's unprecedented. It didn't just happen to a country, a few countries. This happened to the entire world. And we were met with this unprecedented, alarming state that took place that really put people in a very heightened state of fear. So many people went into a fight or flight state. And that's not a natural state to be in. And it was really dragged on for quite a while. So right there, we're not meant to be in this fight or flight state, for an extended period of time. And I say in my book, Time to Awaken, one should never make some of the most important decisions of their life when they're in a state of fear. So, we made decisions based on what was told to us and what was also mandated. And that word alone is something to really pay close attention to. And that's why I say it's important to be awake and aware, because things will come down the pike invariably. And so rather than to rush to make decisions, especially when it comes to your health, you might want to take that pause. And mindfulness teaches you that. Mindfulness teaches us to take that pause so that we can really connect to what we are authentically feeling and thinking and feeling without being told what to think or feel or to experience. So I think that now, with a lot of the things that are coming out about what took place, people are being much more circumspect. They are, and you have a right to ask questions. They are much more discerning, if you will, so that we can make decisions. And again, I agree with you 100%. What's a right decision for you might not be a right decision for me. And we must pay close attention to what we are being told, what we are being presented, what we are being shown. It's very important to use critical thinking skills, and not to fall into the trap that it's inappropriate to ask questions, especially when it's around our health and our well-being, mind, body, and spirit. So I really encourage people to be just more mindfully aware of any decisions they make when things come our way again that have this heightened state of concern, which evokes fear, and it could be under the guise of emergency. Just be very aware of what is happening around you. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, as far as the emergency thing goes, when this started, I met up with a few people in some groups, and what it seemed to me, it came down to invoking this state of emergency, what you're saying. And then, um, I consider myself law abiding, even if I don't agree with the laws, right? Once this emergency powers are enacted, at least from my understanding in Missouri, and I could be wrong, then the governmental structure that is in place beforehand, that is temporarily set aside in order for um, another type of structure to step into place. And if I'm getting this right, all it takes is either the governor declaring a state of emergency, or I forget if it's a simple majority in the Missouri Congress or what. But then, and now I get it. Like if there's a nuclear war or something, a threat, something very dangerous that's immediate, this type of thing would be needed. There wouldn't be enough time to go to, to have the Congress meet and debate and go to their constituents or whatever. They would need to act right away. However, during this, we saw it, the state of emergency kind of evoked and then drawn on repeatedly. And they didn't seem to be answerable. There didn't seem to be any checks and balances on it, as far as I understand. And so I don't know. I think that was a huge hinging point on this whole thing. And I don't really know how to go around it other than, and I don't really need to be involved in government anyway, so much, I feel, because a lot of it is an emotional con game. I think that's one of the better perceptions I've had of government. Um, However, I mean, what would you say to this? And I want to keep it more in the spiritual realm, or the mindfulness is, but bringing awareness to how these things operated, how it was actually able to happen.
And I think that's really a wise way to approach it, Josh, because I do feel that to really understand this holistically and comprehensively, we really need to look at it from a much more, I like the idea of looking at it from a more holistic, a more cognitive, and even a more spiritual point of view, which I subscribe to that myself, that when something is happening on such a large scale like that, we mustn't lose sight of our own individuality. We mustn't lose sight of our own sovereignty and agency that we have over ourselves. And I think that one of the things that one recognizes about, the spiritual path, if you will, that it is the path of self-realization, which in itself is a path of self-awareness, self-emancipation, individuation. Those are all really important things to remember about one's spiritual journey, if you will. And then, I love that quote by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, French philosopher and mystic. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we are that first and foremost. We find ourselves in the material world, in the physical body. We're going to encounter things that can be quite challenging. And again, when we go back to something like this, which was unprecedented and en masse on such a large scale, we mustn't lose sight of our own sense of self. And for anyone who's on a path of self-realization, we know how important that is. A sense of self, a sense of self-realization and self-actualization is extremely important. So we mustn't let the events that are happening around us in the external world really get us off our, off alignment, if you will, off track to the purpose and the intentionality that we have of being on a path of self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's really an important thing to consider with whatever we encounter in the world today.
Sure, and to maybe couch it in some Buddhist language, that the truth has to be seen and known for oneself. It has to be experienced directly. It can't be taken on. You can't just you have to investigate it for yourself in order to know, to investigate reality for oneself. We can't just, it's not necessarily to say all authority figures have it wrong or anything like that, but once we have a piece of information, we have to investigate it for ourselves. What I, Go
Absolutely. And
ahead.
I
Yeah. Mhm.
want to add to that, especially if you're going to bring in the Buddhist perspective of that, which I subscribe to. And I think the tenets of Buddhism are quite beautiful and very applicable to the journey of self awareness. And that I think of Buddha. Buddha was on the path of self-realization. Buddha took himself on that journey. And what that really comes to mind for me is that this was a being on this planet that wanted to recognize the understanding of self-awareness and self-realization and enlightenment on the path of awakening. And that I think of the Buddha being on his path. It was his path. It wasn't someone else's path. It was his path. And the decisions, I didn't live when Buddha lived and walked this earth. I sense that it was a path of individuality. It was a path of, again, self-realization through self-awareness, through the path of awakening, and to hopefully achieve enlightenment. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people interfering with that. Even though you're in the world, you're not of it. You're on the journey, but you know what your intention is. You know what your purpose is, and that is to awaken. So I think that's very important to keep in mind, that we mustn't lose sight of what our intention and our purpose is on this path.
And the Buddha, it's a title that means awake, and that's
Exactly.
what it means.
Gautama
And
Buddha, Siddhartha, the name.
right, exactly. And he was very interested in the Four Noble Truths: suffering, the cause, the end, and then the path to the realization of the end. And what I wanted to, the other thing that occurred to me was, have you come into any opposition on this, especially if you're talking to people about, I don't want to say the word. My fiance used to call it getting painted blue, so it wouldn't trigger algorithms, right?
Yeah,
But
I
people
understand.
just, yeah, you know what we're talking about. I don't know if it still does or
But
not,
use the
but
word
have you
message. Yeah.
have you ran into any opposition around this? And I'm thinking in particular now of this new term called conspirituality, mixing conspiracy and spirituality. And it just seems like they have, first it was the people that questioned, just wanted to think for themselves and ask questions about, the assassination of JFK. Well, then this term by intelligence agencies was popularized to discredit anyone looking into the truth. And so it became this social stigma. So now if that label pops up, then people will automatically turn away from looking any further to that. And, some people have started seeing that, and then they say, okay, well, that's just another program. I'm going to investigate this for myself, on the external anyway, when it comes to the external. But now I hear this tactic of people, giving this label of conspirituality. People are just now mixing spirituality with conspiracy, and then they go after these people and try to, or not these people, but you know what I mean, use that as another pejorative to downplay, discredit, this other kind of character assassination type thing, strategy. Have you encountered any, or what would you say that if you haven't encountered any of that, and then any opposition you've encountered to your work and things like this, and how you go
Well,
about it?
I haven't encountered that per se, but when I wrote my book, Time to Awaken, I mean, I had written mindfulness books prior, and one of my books, Live True, A Mindfulness Guide to Authenticity, was voted as one of the top mindfulness books of all time by Book Authority. So I was recognized as a mindfulness author, and I never really pushed the envelope before. I never had a need to. And what I mean by that is, if asking questions means you're pushing the envelope, why would just asking questions, warrant being called a conspiracy theorist based on how that term got propagated? As you said so well, it was a CIA term used when one questioned the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and that asking questions somehow was a bad thing. So when I wrote Time to Awaken, I really went on my own journey for my own edification. I had a lot of questions that I was asking. So I took it upon myself. I feel it's incumbent upon us, if we have questions and we're not receiving the answers that we feel comfortable with, we can go seeking for those answers by just taking deeper dives and researching and, lifting the veils, whatever you want to call it, And when I wrote the book, there were many people that were quite amazed that I ventured in that direction because, the I want to say the softer, the more gentler aspects of mindfulness is very, even though one can have the awareness of whatever they are feeling, which isn't always perhaps, you know, positive, it is going into a mindful awareness in areas that seem controversial and could evoke something like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. And I wanted to go, I think if you want to find out about something, you need to walk towards it and you want to walk through it. You want to get on the other side of it so that you can have answers that really satisfy your own yearning for the truth. And so I wouldn't say I met with polarization. I think there were many people that were surprised that I really went out on a limb and took the mindfulness, basic mindfulness practice, if you will, and I plugged it into all of these areas of how I perceive the last 3.5, almost 4 years. And I thought that it was perfect for a mindful awareness and having much more of a uh, present moment awareness of what's going on in our world that has changed so radically. I think the mindfulness practice is extremely helpful during this time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Where do you see this whole thing going? Do you see, I mean, I'm not asking you here to get out your crystal ball or maybe I am. Well, I guess put it this way. What have we learned or what should we learn? What have you learned? And what haven't we maybe around this whole thing? And is there anything we need to look out for in the times we're in right now? Maybe drawing on the wisdom of this event,
Well, first of
from
all,
this event.
when I wrote Time to Awaken, I really was getting a lot of downloads during that time, meaning that, when we think of the term download, it means that you're receiving information. Perhaps you're receiving that information because you're asking questions and you're getting that information from perhaps a divine source that maybe is invisible. It's not something you read in a book. It's not something that you did on a Google search. You're really trusting, whatever the divine might mean for you. You're really allowing yourself to receive information that can be very helpful. And so I found myself doing that when I wrote Time to Awaken. And when I was writing it, I kept getting this very strong feeling that we were in the midst of a great awakening. And I thought, great awakening, great awakening. Why does that keep coming to me over and over again? And it feels so resonant to me as I was writing the book. And when I did search the Great Awakening, there have been great awakenings throughout history. There have been times, but it was always usually in a religious context when religion was waning for people. They wanted something more. They were yearning for answers. They wanted a deeper understanding to this life, about this life. And so I thought, well, that feels right to me. That feels like, very resonant to how I'm perceiving the times of which we are in, that this is a time of awakening. This is a time of a spiritual awakening, and that people are sensing it and they're feeling it. Not everybody, because everybody's on their life journey at their own pace, at their own, form of evolution or transformation that is ready for them and they are ready for it. So I do feel that we're at a time of a tremendous shift on the planet. And I feel that this is a spiritual awakening to the likes of which we've never seen in our lifetime. And it's, it's quite extraordinary in many ways. It's also been very daunting and it's been very challenging and it's been very mind blowing. It's been a lot of things, and depending on who you talk to. And what I notice is that there are many of us that feel that way from all over the world, and that there are people that have felt it from day one when this occurrence happened on the planet, where this where COVID occurred, and then, it was called a pandemic. And there were people that felt it from day one. There are people that didn't feel anything. They just took it at face value that this novel virus had hit the world and that we all needed to protect ourselves and we needed to comply with and abide by with what we were being told. And then there are people I'm noticing that now are asking questions. It's interesting to see where everyone is at. I can't speak for everyone. I don't know. I know that in my circle or circles and what I've seen on social media, that it seems that unless you're really living under a rock, you have a sense that there's something going on, and maybe you don't know how to make sense of it, and maybe you can't formulate it through words per se, and maybe your understanding of it isn't completely lucid, or crystal clear. But I do think that more and more people are absolutely sensing that this is a very profound time. This is a very profound shift on the planet, and that we are in the throes of a spiritual awakening.
Yes, it seems like it could very well be, especially like you say, for certain people here, indeed. And for those kind of starting their awakening journey at this time, would you have any kind of advice or guidelines, some help or support of in any meaning or manner? And then I want to ask you too about change or catalyzing change once we're awakened, if there's any um, thing that you feel is worth changing, especially in the external, and then if it's possible and how to go about it. So that's plenty of questions right there, or things.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say that for those that maybe are coming on to this awareness now for the first time, and they feel confused by it or maybe even uncomfortable by it, that they're sensing that that a lot of changes are happening, and they might feel it themselves. They might feel it physically, emotionally, somatically, psychologically. They might feel that they're going through a lot of things and they don't even know what it is. And I want to say you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are feeling very similar things right now. And, I've had a women's group that I started last year just because I wanted to bring people together. I had had a women's group many, many years prior, but the world was not where it is today. I had about 35 women that showed up at my house. And it was incredible because so many of them were longing to connect with other like minded people. And it just didn't have to be just a women's group. That's what I had done. You could get a men's group together, you could get men and women together. I really was amazed how many showed up, and they felt so alone over the last couple of years because they were feeling things and their loved ones didn't understand it, or family members or their partners. They felt really alone. And we also know that if you didn't think, like everybody else, you were meant to feel isolated and maybe even vilified or judged because you were making decisions that you felt were right for your own bodily autonomy or for what you felt was better for your health. And, that's a whole other subject to get into. But so what I would say is that you're not alone, that there's so many people that are what I just said before, coming on to something that they might not know exactly what's going on. And I do believe that is the stirrings of the awakening, that they are sensing that something doesn't feel right, or just listening to authority to tell you what your path is, it isn't feeling resonant for them, that they are feeling things that they're not being met by those that are in so-called positions of authority. It's not satisfying to them. They don't feel that what's being said to them or what's being told to them, it doesn't align with their own inner barometer of truth. Trust that. That's what I would say to people, is that, trust your own journey, trust your own intuition, trust your own barometer of truth. Take that spiritual pulse, is what I call it. Be able to feel unafraid to trust that you are sensing something that might be very accurate, and it's okay. You don't need to rely on others to tell you what your perceptions of reality are.
Very well said. And my fiance likes to use the term inner teacher, the inner teacher there. So I like that one too. Once that activates, I know in my own experience, because I had so much kind of distortion and things to heal from early on, that inner voice I'll just put it this way, it wasn't as wise as it is now, but learning to trust it, or at least investigate it, and try it out, it was the first kind of steps. And now I find the more I ignore it, the more trouble I get in, so yeah, definitely pay attention to this inner voice, this inner guidance, this inner teacher, I would say. So as far as change goes now, how would you call people's attention to anything that they might need to uh, change in the external environment? I know in my experience, when I change internally, it seems to be, I don't know if I want to use the word reflected, but when I change, the world changes in a way, or, so to speak. But
Mhm.
as far as like on a societal level, collective level, on the external, is there anything worth changing that's possible out there? And if there is, would you have any recommendations on how to go about that?
Well, I want to say
Catalyzing
that
change. Yeah.
for me, and I can speak personally about my own journey, I the changes that I want to make really feel congruent to the changes that I'm feeling, meaning that I need to make choices and decisions that really are aligned with how I'm feeling authentically. Do you know? And so that could be, for example, not to be around people that maybe are not on the same energetic or frequency that you are. And without sounding esoteric about that, we all are energy. We feel our energy, we imbibe energy. And if we are trying to maintain a level of equanimity and calmness and harmony, you wouldn't want to be around people that are not that, because that can be disruptive to your own balance of energy, if you will. So some of the changes might mean that, really support your journey. Try and be around others that are more like-minded, so that you can have that harmony and you can have that cohesiveness and you can have that mutual understanding and respect for one another. Because it's been very jarring to be on this journey, especially the first couple of years, where if you felt differently than someone else, perhaps you were made to feel different, or you were made to feel like you're not making the decisions that someone wanted you to make. Well, we each have a right to make decisions that are based in truth for our own selves, do you know? And that's going back to the autonomy and to the sovereignty and to the agency of oneself that I very much believe in. So those are some of the changes you might recognize, that you might not want to be around certain people. You might be feeling your own sense of energy, that you're just not in the same place as someone else is. And you can honor that, you can respect it. And I also don't think it's a time to try to convince anybody of anything. I think you need to live your life. I think you need to honor your own journey of awareness and know that you have a right to walk that path.
These are really good points. I know in my own experience too. Yeah, a lot of my old friends fell away, and I was by myself for quite some time, and I didn't really know what was happening, who to talk to really, and then kind of went on an intensive inner journey and listened to tons and tons of podcasts for quite some time. I was in a position where I could do that, but then I started getting new friends, the friends that I resonated more with, that are more helpful, supportive for my journey, and had more interest and care about too. So just know that, yeah, you're not alone. I really appreciate that. And spiritual friendship, if we want to call it that, or just wise friends, keep being away from fools and towards people that are at least interested in wisdom is a big help. And is that, and also teachers too, those who we can go to where we can resonate with and that can provide some kind of direction, guidance, support, empowerment for as long as they can, and then moving on from them too, when we've outgrown our teachers as well. I feel
Yes,
these are very good things to get into. I feel, yeah.
absolutely. And I do feel that, I know for some people it's been difficult for them, that, it's very hard when you're on a particular journey, and this journey of awakening, and you're feeling things and you're sensing things, and you're maybe around loved ones, or you're in a relationship and they might not understand you, and it can feel very alone and lonely. And I do think it's really important to try to convey to the best of your ability, in a mindful way, that maybe you don't agree on things, but it shouldn't be the reason why you are choosing estrangement or judgment, or projecting something onto someone else. That we really need to honor each other's journeys. We really do.
It's a really good point too, especially for the masculine, learning honor and respect, even for those we don't necessarily agree with. And even, there's something, at least for me, I'm still learning to honor and respect more, and especially myself as well. And while for the feminine, it seems to be often about value and validation a lot of times.
Hmm.
So, yeah. What would you say about service to others? For those of us who are in a position now that we've been on the awakening journey for a while, and we've kind of got some stability and support, and we're looking into service work, or service to others as well. Would you what would you say about that? And do you have any thoughts or feelings or tips on this?
I mean, I think right now that's very needed and very valued, in that there are those that are really going to seek out the wisdom and the counsel of others that maybe have been down this road prior to them going down it now. And so they really want the support, and they really want that very safe space and or container, that they can hold space with someone or others that they can really share this journey with. And if you're in a position, which I have been, by holding space for my women's group, I'm about to do an online program so that we can hold space together and we can really share our information and wisdom and mindfulness and meditation, and have these community gatherings, if you will, because I think it's really needed now more than ever, that people feel they have a place to go, whether it's physical, that you actually have a place you can go to that is near where you live. And if not, you can seek out. I had one in person. I'm going to do one online, and I think it's really so valued and so wanted right now, where people want that sense of community. So if you're a practitioner, or you're in the wellness field, and you feel you have something to teach and or guide, any kind of service in the wellness milieu that you can share with others, I think it's great, because people, as I said, really want that. And it's very, very needed, and much wanted by many people right now.
Yes, I was exploring this notion of community some time ago, and it's fascinating because whether we're think we're in community or not, wherever we are, there's community around us, right? Even if we're in a neighborhood, or if we're out in a rural area, there's still neighbors in some sense of community. Even if we're like a hermit in the woods, and there's animals and nature around there. So yes, what kind of community is going to be most beneficial for ourselves and others around us, and maybe for even a larger harmony beyond that. So yeah, that's it's really good thing to at least ponder and consider. Well, Ora, this has been really cool time talking to you, and I appreciate taking the time out to do this today. Is there anything else you would like to draw people's attention to, other than your upcoming, gatherings online? You can tell people more about that. Tell people where they can find your book, where they can find you online. Anything else you want to draw people's attention to, and then. Um, what kind of message would you like to leave the audience with today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having this conversation today. It's really a nice conversation, I think, for us to be able to share with each other and be able to share it with others. They can find my book on Amazon, Time to Awaken, Changing the World with Conscious Awareness. And if you're interested in my online program coming up, I think February 17th is the first one. You can go on oranadrich.com and check out the deck that's on there to see if it resonates for you, if you would like to join. And again, it's not just a women's, we want men, we want anybody who's on this journey of awakening to be a part of this community, this new community that I'm trying to put into motion of what I call our new world. And what else can I say? I just want people to really understand that this is an extraordinary time to be alive, and trust yourself and be brave. And, even if you have some fear, it's okay to go towards your fear. And you will find yourself each day waking up a little bit more if you are committed to this extraordinary, miraculous path of awakening.
Beautiful. And I close with this a lot, but it seems even more pertinent now. May all beings everywhere realize awakening and be free. Thank you
Beautiful.
all for joining. Bye now.